Welcome back to the Start to Finish course on upgrading to .NET Core. We are currently in the module focused on the actual update of our application. And this lesson, we're going to be fixing those bugs that we uncovered when we upgraded WPF. Specifically, the major amount of time we spent is going to be on fixing Caliburn Micro and how that major change has led to some major issues in our application. So let's go to our source code. And let's look at the errors we have. So we go to our WPF UI and say build. That should give us our error list, and it does. We have 6 errors. Let's start off right down here. We're already selected, so let's go there. The create team view model does not implement the interface I handle person model. So let's implement that. So we're going to implement the interface. Even though we already have the interface implemented, we think, with the handle. Because now we have public task handle async. This is an asynchronous method. And so in theory, we can just copy this and paste it in down here. Whoops, let's copy that again. I was actually trying to paste, or Control B instead of Control V. So there we go, but it says that not all code paths return a value. Well, this one was returned void. We didn't have anything to return. So what are we returning here? It's kind of a misnamed error. The actual issue is that we're trying to return a task, which the reason we're returning a task is because it's asynchronous. Well, what should we do to make this method asynchronous? Well, this should be async. Now we could also, instead of task, we could say public void handle async, but that we don't want to do because then we are saying we have an asynchronous method that returns nothing, returns void. And that's not a good idea. Besides the fact that our interface specified it must return type task. Therefore, we're going to say public async task. Now it's going to give us a green squiggly here because this is awaitable, but it's going to run synchronously because there's nothing that's being awaited. There's no asynchronous calls inside here. That's okay for now. We'll look at maybe making some modifications, but hopefully that should work just fine, just making it asynchronous. Now let's get rid of this original handle method. Now right above here we have a couple of errors. So let's control dot here and see what the solution might be. Well, it says change publish on UI thread to publish on UI thread async. Okay, so it's just changing to an async call instead. And that's awaitable, but we're not going to await it. And then try close control dot. We have 2 options, either generate a method called try close or change try close to try close async. Let's do that one. Now, in theory, this will all work, but I do think that we should come back here and maybe make this async task and then await this. Because this is a task that's returning, so we should probably await this, and this as well as a task, so we should await that as well. So let's do it now and see what it breaks. So async task, and then we should await these. Await, and then await this try close as well. So now that's all set. In theory, it looks a lot better. We can't yet run the application to make sure it works because of the fact that there's a lot more stuff broken. But that at least looks right from an asynchronous perspective. Notice the red over here in my scroll bar. So if I scroll up to where that red is, same issue here. So let's make this an async task. And then let's do our control dot on here and change that to publish on UI thread async. And we'll change this one as well. Don't hit the first one because that creates a new method. That's not what we want. We want to change try close to try close async. And then for both of these, we want to await them. So there we go. And now I scroll up to the next red squiggly where it says activate item. And instead we have some options here. Change activate item to active item. Doesn't sound right. That sounds like something different. Activate item to activate item async. That sounds better. And actually scroll down. I don't want that. Let's go back up here. And it's yelling at me still, even though it's activate item async. You might be tempted to do a control dot again, and you'll find that, hey, may change it to deactivate item async. That's not what we want. The reason it's yelling at me is because if we do the control shift space here, it says it's actually looking for a cancellation token as well. Now we don't have a cancellation token to give it. So what we can do is do new cancellation token. Is it ideal? No, probably not. But again, this gets us working, and now we can move on to the next step, and then we can come back and refactor this. So let's await this and make this a async task instead of void. That solves that problem. Now let's just open up the other files, because they probably have some similar issues. It takes a minute or two sometimes for the file to acknowledge that there's issues. Now as the red squigglies are here, let's make this async task. And again, control dot to change this, and control dot, but go down one to do try close async. And let's await both of these things. And that solves that. And again, we'll do the same thing down here. So we'll await both of these, and we will make this async task. And now control dot to change this one, and control dot, but go down one to change this one. All right, so now that matches the other one. Let's go to the person view model. Probably has some of the same stuff here. Yep, it does. So let's await both of these things. Let's do our control dot to, make this method async. Well, that's cool. Let's do that. Now control dot again and make this try close async. So the control dot for refactoring, it's pretty powerful. So let's make these two awaitable. We'll do the control dot down here and do that same thing, make the method async. Don't stay void, make it async task, not async void. We want async task. And then control dot again and go down one for try close async, and control dot for the async version of that method call as well. Let's save those. Let's go to this one we haven't done yet. I see this error up here, so let's control dot to implement that, and one more control dot to implement that. And then if you look down here, we have an error down here, so let's scroll down to that. And the same basic thing, so async task. And then we'll make this awaitable. And our control dot to change that. Our control dot to change that as well. And now we have our two handles. Don't forget we implemented those interfaces. We have not implemented exceptions. So for the team model one, that's this one right here. We need to copy that and paste it in place. And we make sure this is awaitable. Oops, not awaitable, async. So it can be awaitable. So that takes care of this one. And now let's grab the prize model one and paste it down here and make sure that this is async as well. Now again, we have green squigglies. That's not the end of the world. It just means that we really should have something awaitable inside here. Otherwise, it's essentially just a blocking a call. It's synchronous. But that's okay. You can do that. Shell view model. We have an I handle, so let's let's go down and modify this one manually. So let's go find the handle. So it should be async task, and it should say handle async. That's not good enough. We also have to have, if we go back over here and look, we have to have the cancellation token as well, which again we're not using, and we should use if we had some type of reason to, but we're doing just the bare minimum to get switched over. So let's add the using statement here for system.threading. And now it should be that this error has gone away. It has, because we implemented it manually. It's probably easier to do it with a control dot and then copy things over, but such is life. Okay, activate item should probably be activate item async. And again, we should pass in the new cancellation token. Not the greatest, but it does work. Activate item, same thing down here as well. So let's copy and paste this in here and make it activate item async. And we should await these as well. So let's make this async task. Like so. And that solves those issues. And the view model here, let's see if we have any errors inside here. I don't know if we will. I don't see any yet. I don't see any. So we've gone through all of our view models we knew might have issues because view models do the same or similar things. Those iHandle, which is listening for events, those things are probably going to be throughout our different view models. And the activating items, that's going to be in more than one view model. And that's where we load up new windows. So all those things are counter-repeated. So we look through all our view models and follow the same pattern for every time you found the same thing. Now let's close everything. And let's right-click on our WPF UI and say build. And we only have 2 errors now. Cool. The typer namespace bootstrapper base could not be found. Well, that's going to be a problem because that's the foundation of Caliburn Micro. And if we look for it here, there's nothing in here for using bootstrapper base. And this is where you go to the project itself and say, hey guys, or guys and gals, how do we make this work for .NET Core 3.0? And in fact, just 2 days ago, from when I recorded this video, there was that exact same question, and someone had tracked down, okay, this is what's missing, and here's how to resolve it. And the resolution is actually to get a newer alpha version of 4.0. Remember that we're working with an alpha version of Caliburn Micro. It's you can go to package sources. I am going to hit the plus, and I'm going to call this the Caliburn Micro package source. And paste in this URL. I'll give you this URL. It's directly to their latest and greatest build packages. And I hit update, and I hit OK. Now, if I do this drop down here and say Caliburn Micro package source, notice that the latest pre-release is actually 4.0.89-alpha. And you may even have a later version. But notice we run 4.0.62. That's way down here. There's all these versions since then. And 8.9 is the one that has the fix I want. So I'm going to hit update. And I accept. And now it's going to give you some more errors at first. But if I were to wait, they go away. So now it looks like I can build my solution. Let's see if it builds. It does build. So now we're pretty much good to go. There's some issues here. There's in fact 9 warnings. So the warnings you should look at, but it may not be the end of the world. And in fact, in this case, let's just pin this so we have it. And we'll start going to these warnings. This one's obsolete. The event aggregation provider dot. Okay, that section right there is obsolete. We should use subscribe unpublished thread instead. So we should fix that, but it's not the end of the world because it's obsolete, but not yet not working. The next one. This is async, but we're not awaiting anything. That's okay. The next one. This is async, but we're not awaiting anything. That's okay. The next one. The package WPF 1.0.1 will be restored using the .NET Framework version instead of the Project Target Framework version of App Core version 3. This package may not be fully compatible with your project. Okay, so there was an issue with the XAML.behaviors from Microsoft. Package Microsoft.xaml.behaviors.wpf. Now in this case, I think we can ignore this warning because that's a warning that will go away over time. And that's not one we can really modify right now. Let's see if this actually runs, because that's really a test of the application, right? Does the application boot up? And in fact, no, it doesn't. Cannot locate the resource tournamenttracker.ico. Okay, so there's a problem there with looking for the icon. Well, do you know why? It's because I have this icon file right here. It's right there. But when I deleted the CS proj file settings, one of the settings that was in there was about the icon and the properties of it. Notice the build action is currently set to none. If we set this instead to a different option, like a resource, and say instead that this copy always. Now if we build this, let's run this actually and see if that works. It goes, cannot locate the resource. Okay, so it's not a resource. I always get confused as to which one's which with this. Oh, it was down here. So it's just, yeah, I believe it's just content. So let's do this again. Copy always is going to put it into our output folder. So that should be what we want. We hit no here because we got an error. And the error now is initialized component does not exist in the current context. Awesome. But now it's saying it does. So let's run this again. It's a little quirky sometimes when you're messing around with things, but now runs just fine. The icon is there, it's working, and we have our tournaments. So if we do upgrade test and look at number 1, unplayed only, there's nobody there. Version 2, now there's somebody here. And in fact, if we pull up our, let me grab my my list here. Now we have Tim's team versus Mary's team. Notice, let's get rid of these since we've already seen these. If we hit score on this, and let's say that Mary has, really crushed me, 58-0. I hit score. Then it should be that it sends out an email. And it's kind of hung up here. Let's see what happens. Oops. It's saying a Stack Overflow exception. So we have an issue here where there's a Stack Overflow exception trying to get our file path. So there's something wrong there. Now, the tricky thing about a Stack Overflow exception is that it's not actually the issue you see right here. It's probably not where it actually is. A Stack Overflow exception means that we've just tossed a bunch of stuff on here and overflowed it. Think of trying to put 5 gallons of water into a 1 gallon bucket. The water's going to pour out. The issue is not really the fact the water's pouring out. The issue is the bucket's too small. And so this is showing us, hey, there's water pouring out. There's exceptions or code is not working. There's something wrong. But where the issue is not really here. The issue is, why do we have a Stack Overflow exception in the first place? So we have to find that out. Now my guess is that it's not right here. It's somewhere before this, and maybe this is getting called over and over again or something like that. The first thing I'm going to do to try and test this out is I'm going to run it again right away and just see if it has modified that entry. So go to team 2. Notice Mary's team has 58 points. I have 0 points. And unplayed, there's nobody unplayed because of the fact that was scored. So it's gotten through that, and now we've gone beyond the scoring process. So if we go back and look at our view models, or views actually, and look at the, not create tournament, but tournament viewer, and look at the score button. So let's click on this, not double click, just click, and it's score match. So we go to our tournament viewer view model and look for the score match, which is right here. And come down here and we see, okay, we have the update tournament. Oops, I don't want to do that. I want to add Tim's team, Bob's team, and Mary's team and create a prize of first place. And the prize is $10 and create that tournament. Now, if we look, I just got 3 emails. So Joe has a week off, a bye week, and Mary is playing Bob, and Bob is playing Mary. So if we look at this list now, so round 1, Tim's team has a bye, and it's Mary versus Bob. Looks like I have, it's weird here. So to Joe at smith.com, Mary at smith.com, and Bob at test.com. I think I've got a crossed wire here where it's the email address is joe at smith.com, but my name is Tim. So that's why it says Tim's team, even though it's joe at smith.com. So there's something weird there, our data. But that's not really the problem here. We just want to know, why do we get that weird error? So let's go unplayed only. That's Mary's team versus Bob's team. Mary's going to win. Mary's really dominant, so 30-0. Score that, and it hits the load matchups. And by the way, we get a API exceptions here. we're having Twilio issues. And so it looks like maybe that might be the issue. So we have Twilio exception, Twilio exception, Twilio exception, and then some more. Now I noticed it was kind of bogging down. There was something not right here. And so I paused the application before I could throw that Stack Overflow exception. So it right now is reading all lines from this file for the person model. So we'll step over this. And now we'll go to convert team model. So that's where we're at right now. We'll step over this. And then it's going to split each line in the lines. If we go to our locals window and look at lines, we'll see that it's Bob's team. So it's going to split that out. And in fact, let's go right down here to the output and hit continue. And step to the next one, which is return the matching team. Let's keep going. And it's looking for teams competing. So look up teams by team ID. If we look at calls and look at the thing in position 1, that's a value of 2. It's going to look up team by team ID. Let's step over that. And now the me.team competing, that is going to be Bob's team. And then it's going to look for a score. Let's look at what this is doing. It's converting a matchup entry model of our lines. I think we have a bug, and it might be in the original code. So this is one of those things where you probably should know if the original code worked and that this didn't. Okay, so you need to know, is this a problem of our upgrade, or is this a problem in the original code where we found a bug or stumbled across a bug that we otherwise would not have had? So let's step out of this one. And notice that we're in convert string to matchup entry model. Let's step out of this one. Convert, step out of this one. Step out, step out. Okay, so winner. So this is convert to matchup model. It's saying, hey, the winner is, and it's looking up based off of calls 2, which is the ID is 3. So let's step over that and say, okay, the winner right now, which is p.winner, is Mary's team. So it's just calculated that Mary's team is the winner. And now let's go to matchup round. Step over this, and we'll go here and we'll convert to matchup models, which is interesting that we're doing this. Let's return output. Okay, so we've done that once. Return output, and now we're here, which is lookup matchup by ID. I think we have a circular reference in here, and that's why we're getting the Stack Overflow issue. So there we go. We're back here on the convert to matchup entry model. Yes, so we have a circular reference in here, and that's not something I'm going to spend too much time debugging. Convert to tournament model. I think So what I'm going to do is I'm going to hit stop here. I'm going to go to my debug menu, go to Windows, and click breakpoints. I'm going to find that breakpoint that I placed, and it's right down here. So my error is somewhere between here and there. That's where the error lives. Now, like I said, I think this might have been an error in my code from the beginning. So let's find out if that is a correct assumption or not. So I'm going to pull up my original project and open this up. When this loads up, what I'm going to do is I'm going to do the exact same thing. I'm going to load up the WPF UI. I'm going to make sure that, well, it's pointing to the same spot. I haven't changed where it's pointing to. So let's just run it. Looks familiar. In fact, there's our debug one we've created. But let's create a new tournament. And let's say the old debug. And the entry fee is $10. And Tim's team, let's add that. And then let's add Bob's team and Mary's team. And let's no prize. No prize for you. Create the tournament. And then the emails are going out. I won't show that, but they are going out. So now round 1, unplayed only, Mary versus Bob. So Mary just gets a 1-0 score. And now if we go to round 2, we have Tim's team versus Mary's team. Mary's team gets a 54. We hit score. And it looks like, it feels like we're going to get that same exception. So I'm guessing there's a bug somewhere in the code that that we need to address. But since it's not actually, yep, there's that Stack Overflow exception. So since it's not actually an issue with our upgrade process, I'm not going to worry about it for this video. This is something that we need to track down and figure out, okay, where is that bug, and make sure we make it go away. But it's not something we have to do for our upgrade process because that bug was already there before we started the upgrade process. Now, this will happen in real life. Whenever you are making major modifications to an application, or even minor ones, when you do this refactoring, you're going to find out that there's some bugs that pop up because you're now testing things. You're trying things out, and maybe you didn't test things the same way when you first built it. And so you're going to find things or discover things that may be in your original application. That's why it's good to have your original application, because then you can test and see, is this really an upgrade glitch, or is this a glitch with the actual application, not my upgrade? Okay, so in this case, what would happen is I would create a bug report. And I'd put this as a high priority since it's obviously causing some problems with the WPF application. And I would say, let's get on this, but not during this upgrade process. Because it obviously is an issue, but it's no different than what we had before we started this upgrade process. So it can wait until we're done. We don't want to mix the two together. Okay? So let's close out the old version here. And let's take these breakpoints off. We know that, in case you want to track it down, I'd love to see you do that. Tournamentlogic.cs, you're looking for the upgrade tournament results. And it's in these first 10 or so lines that the issue is. Okay, so besides this issue, which again was existing, besides that, we now have a WPF application that is moved over to .NET Core 3.0. So .NET Core 3.0 application. So we've done our process of upgrading it, and we have debugged and kind of fixed those Caliburn micro issues because we had to go to that latest and greatest version of Caliburn micro. Okay, so now in the next lesson, what we're going to do is tackle our last user interface, and that is this MVC project. So come on back for that.